One product that every bird owner should have in their house is cornstarch. Cornstarch is highly effective for getting wounds to stop bleeding, in particular on their feet. So when I had a pet service, one of the things that I would do would clip nails. I always took cornstarch with me, or septic powder, that works too. But I'd usually take cornstarch because that works. But to be perfectly honest, I would never cut it down to the quick so that the bird would bleed. You don't want to be working with a bird, cause the quick to bleed, and then the owner's flipped out. So, but I had it just in case. So I keep cornstarch at the art studio and my house, and if anything happens, I'm ready to go. You have to have this stuff ready. Like if I wouldn't have had the cornstarch, say if it was like a really small bird, and they could bleed out real quick. So say it was a canary that had a foot problem, you have to stop that bleeding. You want it on hand. You don't want to have to run to the store. You want to stop that bleeding instantly. So that's one thing that I always have for the birds. Today, Solar, my son, yes, he's my son. He's my son. I held the egg, keeping it warm in my hand. When Remy would take a break, I would hold it in my hand. So he's my son as much as he is Remy's son. And I did more work raising Solar than you did for, your human kid getting the old lady pregnant. It's the truth. Come on. Anybody can do that. And who hasn't done that? Yeah, where are my kids? Oh, thank God. Thank God. But the point I'm trying to make is that you tell your son not to do something, they're going to do it. And he's been bothering Peaches. Peaches is my cockatoo. He's been bothering Peaches for days now. He's been, acting aggressive towards Peaches. He flew over to Peaches' cage. She was in the cage eating. She went up and got him on the foot. I knew when I was screaming. I screamed at her. She let go. He flew off, and I'm like, where is the cornstarch? So I took the cornstarch. I put the bird in a small crate, dumped the cornstarch on the bottom of the crate, and just put the bird in there. And they're walking on the cornstarch, and it just, it stops the bleeding. If you don't stop the bleeding somehow, the bird will just keep bleeding. They're not like mammals. It doesn't coagulate like a mammal would. A mammal, like a dog, you still have to do something in many cases, but for the most part, the dog, if it gets a wound and you keep it clean or give it clean and antibiotics, it'll just heal up. The bird, if it's a small bird and it has an injury on its foot, it could just bleed out, like a canary or something. So I really didn't think that it was going to bleed out, but I want to stop the bleeding instantly, and that's what I do. If it was a bigger bird, it'd be the same thing. I might use, like Sam the Raven. If Sam the Raven, something happened to his foot, I'd put him in a large crate and just dump 2 boxes of cornstarch in there, and it'd walk on it, and as soon as it gets on there, it dries it out and helps the blood congeal. It's highly effective. Have cornstarch at your house in case something's going to happen. And you should have stuff at your house, too, for your dog, too, in case something happens. You might want to have betadine or something to clean out a wound for a dog. You might want to have hydrogen peroxide around if your dog eats rat poison. You can give them hydrogen peroxide, and what is it? It might be like 1 cc per 10 pounds, but don't, if you're going to do this, make sure and check out the dosage, because I'm not sure, but that's what it is. And you can take the hydrogen peroxide, mix it up in a can of dog food. Yes, I don't recommend any dog eating dog food, but in that case, yes. And then they'll eat that, and then they'll throw up within 20 minutes. But check out the dosage. Real quick, while we're talking about rat poison, it's very slow acting. And there's an antidote, vitamin K. Get them to throw it up if you can. But it's not like your dog is going to die instantly. It takes a matter of days. And rat poison, those are very small mammals. They have to eat it for days too. So if your dog eats it, don't flip out too much. But if you could get the dog to throw up the rat poison, that's good. But even if you do that, take your dog to the vet. They'll put your dog on vitamin K, which is the antidote to rodenticide, is vitamin K, and your dog will be fine. Remember, rat poison, what they're using for rat poison is D3, and D3 is not water soluble, it's fat soluble, so it stores up in your dog. That's why I tell everybody, do not, when you're using calcium, don't use calcium that has D3 added into it. It's a dosage for a human, not a dog, and it'll start, you know, adding up in the dog's fat, and all of a sudden they have too much and they're going to bleed out. So they need D3, but they don't need the amount that for a human. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's usually what rodenticide is. That's what they use nowadays. So there's an antidote for that. If you have a bird, I just recommend, or you have a dog, whatever, have those things available so when you have that emergency, you can take care of it. If you, like me, I have crazy glue around. If there is a real bad wound or something, I can close it up. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry about that. Take your dog to the vet. They could use Dermabond or give your dog some stitches. Just have that stuff around. No matter what, I'm a vet. I was a vet tech. I can work with that. I work with animals. I know what I'm doing. If you don't know what you're doing, don't try anything that you're not comfortable with. If your dog eats rat poison and you're not comfortable with trying to make your dog throw up, don't worry about it because your dog isn't going to die. It's not instantaneous. Just take your dog to the vet the next day or take your dog to the emergency room. There's many emergencies room open throughout the country, unless you're in some place in, you know, Montana or South Dakota. Then you really should have all this stuff handy and be ready to use it. Do you understand what I'm saying? At my house, I got a place that's 45 minutes away that could do surgery or whatever I needed to have done. If I'm in Brooklyn, you know, even closer. But have those things just to make sure, and a bird especially, have that cornstarch ready to go in case your bird hurts its foot.